The honourable member for Cape Breton-Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to stand up today to speak on the repeal and the replacement of the Animal Protection Act. Mr. Speaker, it's of course extremely important that we as a civilized society and we here in Nova Scotia do everything that we can to protect the welfare of companion animals as well as farm animals. I, for one, am a farmer and have been a farmer for the last 10 years of my life. I don't come from a farming background and I don't come from a farming family. I do, however, come from a family of animal lovers. My dad would have been the kind of guy that would have put a spider outdoors if he would have seen one inside. It's extremely important to understand that many people in Nova Scotia, whether they're farmers for generations or they're people that just have enjoyed having what we now call companion animal, domesticated animals in their homes, there's a lot of good people in this province that have these animals in their homes, on their properties, and take excellent care of them. We unfortunately also have those folks that we need to be writing these laws for, and it's unfortunate that we even have to think about people who would be putting animals at risk, but it's important, obviously, that laws, good laws, well-researched laws, and those that receive the proper consultation are put forward in order to be able to make certain that we have the best legislation put forward to be able to make 100% that we have the most up-to-date and the best standards for humane treatment and the welfare of animals in this province. Being a farmer, and I'm not sure how many people in this House have ever been on a farm or lived on a farm or owned a farm for that matter, it's quite an intense profession to be involved in, and it's specifically extremely intense when you have the care and I take it, and I know that many farmers take it very seriously, the care of so many animals on your property. I have seen myself in a barn in the middle of the night, 3-4 times a night, trying to keep an animal alive. It is the most horrible experience for me, even after 10 years of farming, to see a small little lamb or a ewe or a ram, and just a couple of years ago, my donkey unfortunately passed away quite suddenly on the farm. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see when these things happen to animals, and specifically on farm. It's extremely difficult for those who own, obviously, agricultural, and we call them agricultural businesses, but everyone knows that those who farm are often people who obviously have to like the lifestyle as well, because let's face it, you don't make a whole bunch of money as a small and medium-sized farmer in this day and age in Nova Scotia, which I certainly hope that we can turn that around. As far as Bill 27, I think one of the things that I find most egregious of this whole experience in watching this legislation go through is very similar to what we saw during law amendments, the law amendments process with the Education Act. Law amendments, as one of my colleagues has mentioned here in the House just earlier, is part of the process in which the public can come forward to this House, to our government, and to the members that sit in the opposition as well, and put forward their concerns of what they see as red flags, or perhaps areas that need a little bit more research and a bit more consultation, or perhaps something where none of us are perfect in this House, perhaps something that we just did not see within the legislation in the first place. When people come to law amendments, that's part of their democratic process. It is part of our democracy to be able to allow people to come forward and give them enough time to do so. They should have enough notice. They should have the ability to be able to come and put forward their concerns to the government and opposition. In this case, it's government that's tabling this bill, and make certain that their possible amendments, or their concerns at least, are heard and at least given some sort of credence to be able to make changes within a bill. That's the whole point of law amendments in the first place. However, I really do think that we're starting to forget that. Law amendments is not just some part of the parliamentarian system that we just kind of go through very quickly, and it's like, well, nobody's going to take anyone's concerns very seriously in there anyway. I mean, why bother going through the process at all if none of the amendments are actually going to be taken seriously and are going to make their way into legislation that affects every single Nova Scotian across this province? The Federation of Agriculture presented, and thank goodness that they did. It was good to see them there at Law Amendments. I was present as well and watching the proceedings. Both they and the Canadian Kennel Club both made some suggestions about and brought about their concerns at how quickly the turnaround time was happening without further consultations being done before this bill goes through. Listen, I want to protect animals as much as anyone in this province. I absolutely love every single animal that is on my farm. I try to take the best care possible, as I know most farmers in Nova Scotia do, as far as the animals that are on their farm, whether they're there for companionship, or they're there as part of a flock, a livestock. But I just don't want to see, and I never want to see, whether it's this bill or any other bill, I don't want to see bad laws go through on the books in this province. And I feel more and more as time goes by, we're just trying to push legislation through just to make sure we can get, okay, that's checked off, the next one's checked off, and we can get to the next thing. If there are these many people, and I truly have received hundreds of emails from folks who are concerned about the legislation that is about to go through this House, there's a serious problem with the legislation, Mr. Speaker. Surely not all of these people can be coming forward with concerns, and that these concerns have no merit. So, Mr. Speaker, with that said, again, I will say that, from an agricultural perspective, I have some major concerns, and I have heard from other farmers as well that have major concerns. There was a lack of consultation from the agricultural community. I know, for one, I have a closed flock farm, and for those people in the House that don't understand what that is, and many people in poultry and other sectors of agriculture have very similar things, it's taken me years and years to be able to make certain that my flock is disease-free. And it's been very expensive to be able to get to that standard on farm, as I know it is for so many other folks. It's really important that we adhere to biohazard standards on farm. If somebody is crossing my farmland, or farmland in particular, without a farmer noticing it, and not knowing that that person is going to be crossing land, an inspector or an animal control officer, it puts that farm at risk from a biohazard perspective. And this is directly in the legislation that we're putting forward, that that an inspector can actually cross land without having to let the landowner know. The other thing that makes me, I think the first thing that I saw that was really worrisome in here is actually being able to enter someone's property, enter a barn, enter a field, enter anything with just probable cause. So, Mr. Speaker, I would echo the other voices within this legislature today, at least on the opposition side, that I truly believe that we need to give this legislation more time. And as much as we do have to protect animals within this province, there is legislation in place. There is currently legislation in place. It may not be the best that it can be, but I think it's our responsibility that instead of putting forth something that perhaps has holes or some red flags in it that we really need to take account of, we should be putting forward 100% with 100% surety that we are putting together and putting forth the best bill possible to be able to make certain that we protect not only the animals in this province, but also those people who are the good people that own them or are custodians of them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.